On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, NBA 2K25 has a very interesting simulation of how this series is going to go. Plus, could the Thunder's win total be deceptive this year? And your mailbag questions.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for SI Thunder, Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. Email the show, lothunderpod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the latest version of NBA 2K has released. I've already beaten Joel Lorenzi 3 times in 2K. This is the year of Locked On Thunder on NBA 2K. But with the new game came a whole slew of simulations. Okay, I'll be honest, I did one simulation. But one simulation wasn't enough. Because what I have for you is a compilation of every trade request given to the Thunder, of the playoffs, the standings, the awards, everything for Oklahoma City and for the NBA this year. What does 2K think will happen? That's coming up today, plus your mailbag questions. So with the new 2K game, it's already been, trickling out there leading up to today's launch that the Thunder would have 4 top 100 players. And so with that mark, it's no surprise that the Thunder are a 99 overall team. They share that honor with the Boston Celtics and with the Milwaukee Bucks. Those are the only 3 teams with a 99 overall rating. And the Thunder, I know. If you're listening to this podcast, you are a diehard Thunder fan. If you're listening to Oklahoma City Thunder Talk on September 4th, in the year of our Lord 2024, as football season's upon us, the weather is slowly but surely creeping down in Oklahoma, you're a diehard Thunder fan. You're as diehard as it gets. But I got to tell you, when you load up NBA 2K today, when you load it up this week and hop into an online game, if you pick the Thunder, you'll be looked at sideways. You'll be called the bandwagon. You'll be called every name in the book. That's how good this team is. That is another benchmark of highly successful teams, of teams who are capable of winning a championship. You think of all the teams, and this is silly to some, but you think of all the teams who have been put on a video game ban list. You can't use the Warriors. You can't use the Warriors. Come on, they're too good. You can't use LeBron. He's too good. The Thunder are quickly on that list. Because when you go up and down their roster, SGA is a 96 overall, Chet is an 87, J-Dub's an 86, Caruso's an 82, Hartenstein's an 81, Lou Dort is an 80. I mean, that is 6 80-plus overalls on one team. And the scale is from 0 to 99. Technically, though, it's really from 60 to 99 because no one's rated a 0. Nobody's rated even in the 50s. That's a real NBA player. So when you think about that, this team is deep and talented and good on the court and also on the virtual hardwood. Isaiah Joe and Wiggins are both 78. Wallace is a 76. Javel is a 75. Kenrich is a 73. So is Usman Jang. Nikola Topic is a 72. Dylan Jones is a 69, a very nice overall for the rookie. AJ Mitchell's a 68, and Adam Flagler is a 67 overall rating on NBA 2K. 2K projects the Thunder starting 5 to be Shea, Caruso, Dort, Dub, and Holmgren. That's also who I would project the Thunder starting 5 to be. So that's what the Thunder are roster-wise. And so what I did was I took that and loaded into a franchise mode. It's called My Eras, current era in NBA 2K, because we have to find some way to make it more complicated. I turned off injuries because I wanted to get a baseline of how 2K thought these teams would do under the perfect circumstances. No injuries. It's just these teams going at it. That still did not sway away from bad results. I'll just say it. The 2K sim engine, as always, needs a little bit of work. A little bit of work. So starting out middle of the season, the Thunder only had SGA as an all-star. Chet did make Rising Stars, but other than that, that's all of their all-star weekend participation. At the end of the year, the Thunder finished 59-23. And this was interesting because on November 10th, Thunder had only won 3 games. And so they went from that to 59 wins, nearly 60. That was good enough for the 1 seed out west because the Thunder owned the tiebreaker over the Dallas Mavericks, who won 59 games as well. And then they had Minnesota at 58 games. Everything normal so far. But then you get your curveballs. The Spurs, I've been calling them my spunky Spurs, but they're not this spunky. 50 wins, according to 2K. Get real. Listen, I guess ESPN produced another 0.2% chance to make the playoffs, and Chris Paul is back to being a vegan if he ever stopped. 50 wins for San Antonio. 45 wins for the Clippers, 45 wins for the Nuggets. The Clippers have that tiebreaker according to 2K. The Kings and Suns at 44 wins. The Kings have that tiebreaker. So your top 8 are Thunder, Mavericks, T-Wolves, Spurs, Clippers, Nuggets, Kings, Suns. And then you go Lakers, Warriors for the play-in. So, you can argue that they got 9 of the top 10 right. And I would just swap out Spurs and Grizzlies, me personally. The sim engine was not up to date, I don't think, on the Grizzlies and how good they're going to be. They still had the Grizzlies at 37 wins. They had the Rockets at 41-41, which I think is pretty fair. They had the Pelicans, though, way down here at 33 wins. Portland had 25 wins, and Utah had 18. That's where I just don't understand the 2K sim engine, because I literally turned off injuries. There's no way that the Pelicans would win 33 games with no injuries. And then out east, it's even worse. Out east, it's New York at 58 wins. The second team is Josh Giddey's Chicago Bulls at 51 wins. The Boston Celtics won 30 games. 39 games, I should say. The Boston Celtics won 39 games. This was just a disastrous first simulation for the sim engine. But nonetheless, we went through with it. And what happened is the Thunder got the 1 seed. They closed out Sacramento in 6 in the first round. Then they gentlemen swept the Clippers and made their way to the Western Conference Finals, where the Thunder played the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Thunder, facing the Timberwolves, went out there and brought the brooms out for their 3rd sweep in franchise history, and 2nd straight postseason with the sweep. They swept Minnesota. And in the East Finals, the Chicago Bulls' miracle run continued. The Bulls went to the East Finals against the Knicks, and luckily, for the sake of our engine, the Knicks won. So that set up a Thunder-Knicks Finals, where the Knicks won once in OKC, once in New York, and then lost the series. So the Thunder, according to 2K, are going to win the NBA Finals. And if that actually happened, you would be opening up Pandora's box for another dynasty. Because right now, you look around and you search around for the NBA sphere. And what are people talking about right now? People are talking about, the day of the dynasty is over. This is a new era of parity. You can no longer have these dynastic runs. But if this Thunder team gets one this year, and you have Hartenstein for another couple of years, you're going to sign Caruso long-term, and of course you have that nucleus of Shea, Chet, and J-Dub, plus a bevy of future draft picks. What would stop this team if they're already that good, if they're already capable of getting over the hump this year? Because I think that right now, you see a lot of hype about the Thunder. You see a lot of expectations put on them. But in reality, there's still an aspect of, okay, take the next step. The next step is still conference finals, is still appearing in the NBA Finals. I think that when push comes to shove and when the chips are down, the Thunder will not be picked by many to win the finals. I think that they'll be picked by many to win the West regular season and make a deeper playoff run than they did a year a year ago, but not necessarily, win the NBA Finals. So if they're able to do it this year, that changes the complexity of everything. That changes the NBA on a dime. And that's how quickly these narratives shift. So if 2K is correct on that, then your Oklahoma City Thunder have shifted the NBA. We'll talk about this more coming up. But first, I want to say right now, I better get friends over at FanDuel, folks. FanDuel is awesome. I love FanDuel, and so will you, because it's football season. We're back. Sports are back. It's awesome. And right now, at America's #1 sports book of FanDuel, you can go and through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks free of NFL Sunday Ticket for YouTube and the YouTube TV app. So then, with a YouTube base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Visit right now, FanDuel.com, America's #1 sports book, and you can bet again on the NFL action, which is starting up. But perhaps you don't feel confident enough in your NFL abilities. Perhaps the Chiefs being 3-point favorites doesn't do much for you, and you only feel confident in betting in the NBA. You can do that. You can bet on NBA opening night already, where the Thunder are in Denver, and they are 2.5-point underdogs. But they are the best odds to win the conference. So you can bet on the Thunder win the conference if you want to at FanDuel.com. Go there right now and check them out today. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. So the Thunder win the West, where Shea was Western Conference MVP. They win the NBA Finals, where Shea was NBA Finals MVP. The season-long awards, Luka won MVP, Zachary Richache won Rookie of the Year, Amon Thompson won Sixth Man and Most Improved, Victor Wembanyama won Defensive Player of the Year, LeBron James, who retired, spoiler alert, won Clutch Player of the Year, and Jason Kidd won Coach of the Year. All NBA teams, SGA, Luka, Giannis, Jokic, and Wembanyama make up first team All-NBA for this simulation. Second team All-NBA was Ant Edwards, LaMelo Ball, Trae Young, Therese Halliburton, and Joel Embiid. And third team All-NBA was Morant, Cunningham, LeBron, AD, and Sabonis. The all-defensive first team was Victor, Giannis, Mobley, Bam, AD. The all-defensive second team was Chet Holmgren, Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, Miles Turner, and Walker Kessler gets in there. So there you have it. The retirees are simple. It's LeBron, it's Chris Paul, it's Kyle Lowry, it's Al Horford, it's Mike Conley, it's Eric Gordon, it's Brook Lopez, Batum, Love, Westbrook retires, but Reggie Jackson retires as well with Westbrook. D. Rose retires, Jeff Green retires in this simulation. Russ, LeBron, and Chris Paul got into the Hall of Fame according to the simulation. The Jazz won the Cooper Flag lottery, for those of you that care about that. But one other interesting aspect of this sim, if anything at all is interesting, is the random trades that got sent out. Lou Dort was wanted by everybody. It started with Dallas, who offered Omax and Najee Marshall for Lou Dort. Denver offered Sarge and Najee Marshall for Lou Dort. I'm sorry, Denver offered Sarge and Zeke Najee for Lou Dort. Dallas offered Derek Lively and Omax for J-Dub. That was just strange. But not as strange as this, the Pelicans offered Zion and Jeremiah Robinson Earl for J-Dub and iHeart. The Lakers offered Jalen Hood-Schifino and Gabe Vincent for Alex Caruso. The Heat offered Jaime Jaquez and Khalil Ware for J-Dub and Dylan Jones. Portland offered Robert Williams III and Dop Reef for Alex Caruso. New York offered Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart for J-Dub and Isaiah Hartenstein. The Bucks offered Bobby Portis Jr. and AJ Green for Lou Dort. The Knicks offered Mitchell Robinson and a Mavericks first-round pick for Caruso. The Heat offered Khalil Ware and Duncan Robinson for Lou Dort and Kendrick Williams. Charlotte offered Trey Mann back with Nick Richards for Caruso. And Detroit offered Jalen Duren for Alex Caruso straight up. Again, for the sake of the simulation, we didn't accept any of these offers at all. Just wanted to see what this team was like with their default rosters. But were any of those offers intriguing to you at all? Let me know in the comments on YouTube. Spotify has comments now. Leave a 5-star Apple Podcast review. Like the video, subscribe it anywhere you get podcasts from, including on YouTube. And so that's your 2K simulation. Does it really matter? No. But if the Thunder really did win the title this year, it would genuinely shape-shift the narratives around the NBA. And for that, it's very interesting. But I think that when you look at the Thunder, and in this simulation, they won 59 games, and their over-under is set at 56.5 at FanDuel. And me and Joel picked over-unders yesterday for all West teams. We'll do the East next week, spoiler alert. They won 57 a year ago, but now you're adding Caruso, you're adding Hartenstein. Your only true loss is Josh Giddey. The West is really tough, but there's a lot of moving parts. And so the win total, I don't think matters as much as preparing yourself and getting the looks at lineups and getting the looks at data points for what will make you better in the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, no one cares, right? At the end of the day, the Mavericks just went to the finals as a 5 seed, and you'd much rather have the 5 seed in the finals run than you would the 1 seed. Now, you can't bank on that. Like, you don't want to rest on your laurels. There's a healthy balance of caring about the regular season and just punting it away. But there is also no harm in winning 55 games and hitting the quote-unquote under. But in a couple of those losses, you got to experiment and look at and put in your back pocket some different lineup data. So I'm curious to see how this works. Also, an aspect of it is injury luck, but not just in the raw sense of like, oh my goodness, somebody's going to get hurt. Because spoiler alert, that can happen for every team in the world. Like every team in the world, you can say, what if they get hurt? You can worry yourself to death with any team out there about injuries. But one thing I keep looking back on was when you see the aspect of Chet Holmgren. And last season, he went on the Woj pod and he said that the team had talked to him about resting games and he didn't want to. Well, Chet, you've had a whole year of playing all 82 games and you're the ultra competitor, and that's fantastic. And you applaud the work ethic, you applaud the competitive nature of it, but there's also data that shows how good you are after you've gotten rest. So does that mindset change at all, having gone around the sun one time in the NBA? Or maybe you just see him rest sporadically. I don't think that they're ever going to do what the Clippers do, or Clippers previously did, with going all in on load management. But I also don't know that playing all 82 games stubbornly is a great avenue either. So measuring that balance this season could be affected in the win total as well. So this could go a lot of different ways. And it's not just negatively. This could go positively in the sense of, like, on paper right now, you look at these two teams, and if you do what we did on 2K and turn injuries off, it's like, yeah, Boston's the best team. They play in a weaker conference. They have the best talent, etc. KP is not going to be back for a while. Like, he will start on the shelf. And if he does not quickly return to form, the Thunder are so talented that if they click right away, they're healthy out of the gate as of right now, knock on wood, that if they click right away, they can easily rattle off the best record in the NBA because of just the nature of the fluidity of what Boston's going through. And when you're the reigning champ, I mean, there's nothing left for you to prove until we get back to April and you try to repeat, which is very tough to do. And so with KP starting injured, like, what does that look like whenever Al Horford needs a break? What does that look like when he comes back? Like you don't want to push him too hard because he's much more valuable in May than he is right now in the early season. So this team could be the best team in basketball. It could also win 55 games, which would technically be the under and technically be a win regression. But the win total could not matter any less for this team. This team is far too good to not be a top 4 seed in the West. So they're going to have home court advantage for at least one round. They're also far too good to not be in a better spot come May to win a title than they were a year ago. They'll be in a much better spot this time around than they were a year ago, by the nature of their roster moves and by the nature of the team improving and J-Dub and Chet seeing what it's like on that stage and getting better. So me and Joel both picked the over on the Thunder. You can go get our explanations on yesterday's show. And I'll still take the over. Joe Mazzato, took the over. Like, I think you should take the over on this win total, and the Thunder are going to end up winning at least 57, because all the things we worried about last year, and this year you're worrying about it with better players. Like, you worried last year about not playing Wiggins enough and playing 10, 11, 12, 13 guys. Well, this year the 10, 11, 13 guys are much better than they were a year ago, frankly. So I just think that this team's really good, and this team is superior in terms of talent. I'll take the over, but I don't think that you should concern yourself if the Thunder start out a little slow out of the gate. Coming up, let's talk about your mailbag questions. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at your good friends, and you're over at our mailbag podcast on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. You can also leave your mailbag questions on YouTube in the comment section, and email hellothunderpod@gmail.com. So the first one from at John Gottfried: how can we fast forward to Thunderball? Football season is going to help things go faster, but we're almost there, folks. End of this month, it'll be media day, then it's training camp and preseason, and unlike other sports, like NBA preseason is pretty much just the season. Yes, they don't play as much. They only play like a half or a quarter, whatever. But there's only a finite amount of guys you can play. And for a team who's going to go 10, 11, 12 deep in the regular season, you can't sit them all. Like, you can't just only play the back half of this roster, because when you look at this roster, like, you already have one roster spot that's literally vacant. You have another roster spot that's vacant in the sense of what you can put on the court. You can't put Topic out there. So that's two spots just gone. So you're going to have to play guys you care about in the preseason and guys you want to see. So really, all you have to do is make it to the preseason, which is at the start of October. So it's going to get here. It's going to get here pretty quick. And so make sure you're following along to Locked on Thunder, as we will soon ramp back up to 5 shows a week. Moving on to some more of your questions. At OKC Thunder _BR Hoops. What do you think is the most important skill or adjustment to J-Dub's improvement? I think that he has to get better as a playmaker, especially finding Chet earlier in the pick and roll. Once he unlocks that, and I think that he will, the sky is the limit for what that duo can do. And you saw it last year. They were excellent together last year. But you can even improve upon that as a self-sufficient playmaker for others. And he was good at it last year. He can take a step forward in it this year, and it can really push him on up. At Cason Wallace Enjoyer, opinions on the silliness agenda. I love the videos, Cason Wallace Enjoyer. I love them. You had one the other day that was hilarious. Well, they're all hilarious, but I need to go back and find the one I'm specifically talking about, because it had a very good song in it that I did not know someone who I assume, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I assume that you are of a younger demographic would have even appreciated. But you had that song in your video. I'm going to find it and like it. But it was awesome. The videos are funny. Keep it up, Cason Wallace Enjoyer. Kent Nicholson says, who's the better player, Lu Dort or Caruso? I'm going to go with Caruso just because he can do more things. Like, Lu Dort is stellar defensively. He's stellar. So is Caruso. They both are who you want defensively. But Caruso, I trust his shot way more. And I 100 times over trust his playmaking more. So I'm going to go with Caruso. But that's not an indictment on Lu Dort. Like, to have both of them is special for this Thunder team. It really is. The next question is from TTS. Are we going to see more lob slams this season? Good question. I think that you are going to see more lob slams this season. More of them than you even saw a year ago. Sports Fan 101 says, who will be the most improved player for the Thunder this season? Do you think the Thunder can have 2 All-Stars this coming season? I do believe the Thunder will have 2 All-Stars. Whether it be by the initial vote or by injury replacement, I think that they'll have 2 participants when the ball's tipped on that Sunday All-Star weekend. As far as your first question, most improved is tricky because, like, there's so many ways you can gauge it. I think that Chet Holmgren can take a massive leap in the box score, where, like, it looks like he's just done all these vast improvements, when in reality it's very simple check marks that he's going to hit. Like, he's going to get better, understanding that he needs to be more aggressive and understand that he's one of those guys who can afford to take quote unquote difficult shots and like quote unquote selfish shots. Like he can afford to take those shots and needs to take those shots. So that's going to help him. I think that Shea and J-Dub are going to get much better as pick and roll maestros. And that's going to spoon feed him buckets that he didn't enjoy last year. And so I think that that can all contribute to his box score upticking and us looking on that season and saying, well, look at this basketball reference page. He was obviously most improved whenever a lot of it is outside factors. An under the radar guy for this is Cason Wallace. He's kind of forgotten about. He's that veteran. He's a veteran even though he's a rookie, right? Like he carries himself like a veteran. He feels like a finished product. This guy is nowhere near a finished product. And if he really does get back to his point guard nature, then the biggest question I have about this team, if you sat me down and said, you've got to pick a weakness, there's no perfect NBA team. I cannot sit here and tell you all last season that even the almighty Boston Celtics were not perfect a year ago. And then say this Thunder team is perfect. That would not be right. What's the weakness? I do not feel confident right now in the Thunder's ability, when push comes to shove, to have that secondary creator. Now, I think that it can be fixed, and fixed internally even. I think that J-Dub will, in fact, take a step forward in that area. And that will solve 99.999% of the worries. But even making his life easier in the secondary unit, even making his life easier with Shea on the floor, you want another guy, another table setter. With a whole offseason to develop and a whole offseason to grow. And getting to develop in broader strokes, whereas like a year ago, he was confined to this box because how good he was. He was too valuable to not keep him in that 3-and-D box and keep him in the NBA. You couldn't afford to send him down to the G League and let his leash get extended. So I am just fascinated to see what that looks like now whenever he returns to the NBA level. Because if he's just simply a 3-and-D guy, that's still great. He's put on more pounds and he's upped his frame, as he reported on Instagram yesterday. He's going to have more tips and tricks on how to handle, defensive life in the NBA as a guy who was already stellar on that end as a rookie. Like the baseline is still incredible for him. He's going to get better. If he can become a creator for himself and others, watch out. That's a breakout guy right there. So I'll go Chet will be what the consensus is because the numbers are going to be gaudy. But I think that the answer could actually be Cason. Thank you so much for listening to today's Locked On Thunder podcast. Tomorrow, we're going to have Ivan White, who's a staff writer for SI Thunder, on the show. And then next week, we'll do it all over again. Again, if you have not listened yet, go back and check out our podcast with Joel Lorenzi with our Western Conference over-unders. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I always love having Joel on. He's going to be on again next week to do the Eastern Conference. So until then, be good and be good to one another.